What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and let's get right into it. And I think there's a lot of things that we need to start looking at, um, because I've been noticing it, and we've talked about this a few times, and in the past I would say year and a half on this channel, and um, aside from all the data I present to you guys. I think this is one of those things that we look at, um, and we like to look at different ideas or possibilities of anything that can happen. But I'm referring to cyber attack, blackouts, and I think you're starting to see. At least I don't know if you guys have, but I've noticed that this is a growing topic that I'm hearing about more consistently, and so we will discuss that. I have a short video from something that's happened, but anyways, let's start here. Job openings versus S&P. So we see the S&P 500 marching up. I think it's about 5% away from its all-time high. And we see U.S. job openings are dropping. Now, what's interesting is that the unemployment just went from 3.9 to 3.7% in the newest data that was released. We'll see when they revise it, because they've been revising it. Those job numbers seem to be changing. So who knows how they're manipulating it when they release that data. But we're starting to see a drop in job openings. And usually that's an indicator. That's you see that as the last shoe to drop right before the recession, and right now it's teetering. It's teetering, but don't be confused or mistaken or deceived. We can see there's a clear downtrend of job openings. The number of Americans with a second job is again at an all-time high. So we see here, even if we look back all the way to like the 1990s, right? We see this level right here, and we reached that level right around, prior to the pandemic. We lost it, and now we're right. I mean, this is the highest it's been in what, 25, 28 years, almost 30 years. So it's quite the sight to see. Primary second job. So this is people having two full-time jobs. Man, that's unbelievable. If you work a second job, what's that like? Let me hear you in the comment section. Talk about, if you've recently got a new or a second job to make ends meet. If you feel, kind of talk about your experience and what that would be like. I'd definitely like to get your perspective on that. Wells Fargo talking about massive layoffs. So they've apparently, right now, I'll just read this. It says Wells Fargo now warns of massive layoffs for 2024 as the banking giant announces a whopping $1 billion severance hit. Wells Fargo, which has its corporate headquarters in California, has fired approximately 11,300 employees just this year. This is about nearly 5% of its entire 230,000 workforce. As layoffs continue into 2024, the CEO warned investors the cost could amount to a staggering $1 billion. Let's see. So, looks like they're going to be... Then they're not the only ones, folks. It's going to accelerate. And like I said, job losses are the last thing to drop right before a recession. So it's a very key metric to keep an eye on. The consumer is weakening by the day. Personal savings rate has plummeted to extremely low levels. So we see here that, if we look at historically what low levels look like, we can see here that we're back at those 2006 to 2008 area or levels. And we've had the highest point in during the pandemic when they gave a lot of stimulus. So, interesting chart to look at. Now, this is where I want to get to. So you hear blackout here in Sri Lanka, where it's a nationwide power outage due to a system failure. So this is not like a small little city. This is a rather large city with a large population, and I think it's something that's worth monitoring, due to the fact that, hey, this is a real possibility that can happen around the world. And you've heard about the cyber pandemic that the World Economic Forum put out, right after the pandemic that happened, and Klaus Schwab talks about cyber attack that would really make seem the COVID pandemic in very small in comparison. And so when you think about things, it's like, well, it's a real possibility. What do I need to get prepared? And that's one of the things that, we've been talking about this channel, about how do you prepare for scenarios that can really, really get escalated. And living in a major city, it would prove even more difficult. Home prices are contracting sharply. These levels were only seen twice, 1970 and 2008. You can see a huge sudden collapse in home prices. They ran up rather high during the pandemic. You know what? When I think about this, because the World Economic Forum tells you you'll own nothing and be happy. Well, how do you achieve that, right? One thing is, for example, Canadians, their home prices have just gone so high, people cannot afford it. They can't even afford to put groceries or pay for bills because everything's so expensive. So when you do that, you create a nation of renters. They're indebted. So what I think, will probably happen is, and we don't know how it's all going to turn out, but if we have another situation similar to what happened in 2020, but if it's like a cyber pandemic, you're going to see the demand for certain things go way high. People want to get out of the cities. They don't want to be there because they see how detrimental it is. You can't get anything. You're surrounded by millions of people. All the resources are constrained. It's different than rural living. And I think what's going to happen is home prices are going to keep going up and up and up. People won't be able to afford it. You'll have to live in your apartments. You'll have to live in some small space because that's all you can afford. And even those will be really expensive, but that's the only thing you can afford. Homes are going to be out of people's price range. It's not going to be an option at all. And I think that's where we're heading towards. Here's another interesting video that I saw. New York City will be the first city in America to charge Americans to go to work in the morning. Americans will have to pay $23 per day. Passenger vehicles will be charged $15 to enter the congestion zone. Trucks will be between $26 and $36. The tolls will be charged once per day.
Cycles,
this
$7.50.
is incredibly
Those tolls would be
dumb.
charged once per day and would be in effect between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on weekends. Fees.
The proposal aims to reduce traffic congestion, and so it begins. New York City will be the first city in America to charge Americans just to go to work in the morning.
Very first state in the nation, the very first city in America to have a congestion pricing plan.
Americans will have to pay around $23 per day.
Passenger vehicles would be charged $15.
How does this, folks, I mean, if you live in this area, let me know if this is a reality or when it's going to be implemented. But this is just unbelievable. And if you're still living there, what are you doing? But yeah, they're trying to make they're basically making people live paycheck to paycheck, which most Americans are. They're squeezing them. So, anyways, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. It's the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good one, everyone. See you.